What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update, and this time it's for Hakes. Hakes auctions just closed yesterday, January 19th. I had to go check my calendar on that. And the interesting thing about this auction lot that Hakes just finished up is that there were a number of really great affordable items across a wide range of prices. Obviously, you got 12 backs and things like that that are probably more than I would ever spend. But there were a number of great items, both ungraded mint on cards, loose graded, and I'm only going to touch on a few of them just because this video would run too long. But you know, sometimes the Hakes auctions are really cool to look at, but it's really like looking at a snapshot of how the other half live, of how the top 1% of the 1% live in terms of their collecting, because it's just like stuff that is insanely expensive, insanely rare prototypes, things like that. But this auction was a great one, and I think it was a perfectly timed mix of items. It happened right after the holidays. A lot of folks have already spent a lot of money on their family and significant others for Christmas and so forth. So maybe pocketbooks weren't as deep as they can be kind of in the summer time frame, and so as a result, I feel like what was offered was very affordable, and hopefully some of you out there were able to pick up some good items. If you like this video, please be sure to like it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please consider subscribing, and I like to kind of go over this kind of market data just so people are updated on prices. If you have a collection and you're looking to sell it, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I try to help them, help sellers find the right buyer for their items, and I've helped a number of folks here recently. So it's not like I charge anything. I just try to help folks out. But let's go ahead and dig right in. Hakes had some really beautiful items. This was a 12-back B Obi-Wan Kenobi AFA 80. This was the white-haired version of Obi-Wan. Very white. Look how bright white that is. That was a very, very white figure in that case. The grades were 80, 80, 85. And all of the prices I'm going to quote include the 18% buyer's premium. I've talked about this in other videos. In case you're new to Hakes and you want to figure out how all that works, I've got a number of videos on Hakes auctions. I will put the links for all of those past videos in the description to this video. But joining Hakes is very easy, but it can be kind of expensive because they do charge what's called a buyer's premium to the buyer. So 18% is added on to whatever the final price is. So you got to factor that in when you're making your bids. The final winning bid was $24.01 for this one. $24.01 for a 12-back B AFA 80. Here was a 12-back B C3PO AFA 85. So very high grade. And we've talked about this, right? You know, the jump, especially for mint on cards, to go from an 80 to an 85, very significant. Very significant. You start talking about multiples of price, and usually double what an AFA 80 can go for. And I think that this was, I don't know if it was double, it's probably pretty close. Probably pretty close. An AFA 80 12-back B would probably run you about $1,600. That's probably about right. And this was an AFA 85, and it sold for $3,245. $3,245 was the final sales price. And, for all of Hakes auctions, they have a value code. In this case, the low was $2,000 to the high of $5,000. That was kind of their range, so it fell right in the middle there. This was a 12-back B Jawa, also AFA 85, and again, this one went for a significant multiple of what an AFA 80 would go for. This one was a punched example, as you can see here, and it did have a price sticker, but AFA 85 overall did have the older style, or the clear view case up top, which most folks don't tend to like. Most folks don't tend to like those, but that's a gorgeous item. Gorgeous item. That one sold for $2,855 and change. And you got to remember also, this does not include packing and shipping. So I've never bought from Hakes personally. I've bid on a few items over the years, just never won anything. I think I bid on one item in this lot, but I didn't win. Here was another one. This was a 12-back B CAS 90. CAS 90. Very similar condition. It had the price sticker and it was punched. So very similar to this one. That was an AFA 85. Now, an AFA 85 sold for $28.55. An AFA 90 sold for $38.35. So a couple of data points there for the 12-back B Jawa, but pretty significant price change versus the AFA 85 to go to a CAS 90. That's a big number. Here was a 12-back C Darth Vader Afa 80. That one sold for $2,832. So beautiful item though, beautiful Vader. And we're not going to talk about all of the items that were out there in the 12-back category, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot and show you a few that were interesting. This was a 12-back C Stormtrooper CAS 85. That one sold for $2,206. So another data point there for that. And here was a beautiful 21-back A Hammerhead. That was AFA 80. The card got an 80, blister 85, figure 85. And that was an awfully pretty one. This one sold for $1,596 on 14 bids. But that was in pretty amazing condition. It was punched, but that's probably about right. I mean, the value code was $1,000 to $2,000, so that's kind of right in line there. And a year ago, this was probably more like $1,100, $1,200, but it's obviously jumped up a little bit. And Hakes does tend, we've talked about this in past videos. Hakes does tend to command premiums versus the market. There were a few items though that sold at Hakes that were actually lower than some of the eBay prices we've seen. So not terribly, the prices weren't terribly high in this batch, but where Hakes really tends to attract the buyers is on the rare pre-production and prototype items. That's like the rocket firing FETs, things like that. This is one I was pretty tempted to bid on. I probably should have. Now I look back at it. It was only a CAS 40, but it was a red bar, and you can see how beat up that one was. But it's about as cheap as you're going to get for a red bar R5. That one sold for $231, and it was a 40 grade. So, it's a pretty low grade for a red bar R5, but it would have been kind of a cool addition to the collection to have. But after the buyer's premium, $231, let's call it about $250 after shipping. That's a pretty good deal for a low grade red bar R5. This was another cool custom that CAS had. This was a CAS 75. And this was the Droid Factory R2, as you can see here. But the sticker sheet was unused. So they framed the sticker sheet next to the R2-D2 with a third leg there. You can see that third leg, very pronounced. That's what she said. And, you can see that the head on this one had a lot of discoloration. So that's why I got the 75 grade. But, kind of a unique item. I've never seen something like that before, where you have the Droid Factory R2 with the unused sticker sheet. And that one did sell for $536 after the buyer's premium. That's a pretty cool, unique item, though. Here was a DCA, Die-Cast Authority, so it's part of AFA and VGA. They've got a die-cast, a separate die-cast division. This was DCA 85 for the land speeder. That one sold for $857. That's a pretty good deal, in my opinion, for a 12-back die-cast. Here's the label on that one. 80, 85, 85 were the subgrades. I mean, quite honestly, I think that this price is about right. I've seen it sell for higher than that just on eBay, so that's a pretty good number there. Here was another interesting one that I thought was a great price. This one was the Meccano rectangle. They call it the square card, but it's really a rectangle. And it was yellowed, but it was the Obi-Wan Kenobi. It did have some, fair amount of damage around it. Card has been punched, scattered wear, yellowed blister, firmly attached with a dent at the top and bottom. Lower right corner has a small piece cut out. And I don't know what that means. These square card Meccanos, they do use kind of a weird folding aspect for those blisters. And so sometimes you'd have like little dinks and gaps and things like that in the blister. So I'm not sure if that's what it's referring to or not, but it could be, referring to some of the card condition. I don't know, but that's the only problem I think with Hakes is they don't include a lot of photos for the mint on card items. So to a certain extent, you're relying a lot on the item description, and that would be my only wish list type of thing with Hakes, is that they maybe included a little bit more photos. I think if they included 4 or 5 photos from all the different angles, they would probably get even higher final sales prices, but that's just me. Anyway, this one, that's probably like a 70 or 75 grade Ben Kenobi Meccano, and that one sold for $628. I thought that was a very fair price for the square card Meccano. This was a cool one too. This was it had all the contents, But you know, the box was opened, so the box was open. But this is the radio controlled Jawa Sandcrawler, another item that we've seen, you know, in very high grade go for many thousands of dollars. This one sold for $1,324. That's a pretty good number in my opinion. But it had, you know, here's all the contents. It's got the remote control, the ladder. It was a used sticker sheet, but it had all of the different paperwork inside. So that would have been a really nice candidate for a custom with collector archive services. But very fine to excellent overall. And you can see the final sales price there of $1,323. Another high-grade example, this was an Empire Strikes Back 41 back A Imperial Commander AFA 85, and that one sold for $973. Probably about market. I mean, I've seen a few AFA 80s here sell recently in that $500 to $600 range, so for an AFA 85, you're going to be paying, you know, a pretty sizable premium, but it was a punched example. It did have the ugly Toys R Us sticker on there, so I could see it selling for that. Here was a 41 back D Bosk that was yellowed. It was yellowed. That one had a value code of $200 to $400, but as I've talked about in past market update videos, it seems like Bosk in general is really jumping up in price lately. This one sold for $942, including the buyer's premium. So the subgrades on that were 75, 80, 85, and it was yellowed. So despite all of that, it still sold for almost $950. So Bosk is one of those that if you don't get one here soon and you're looking for, especially an Empire Strikes Back or especially a clear blister, those are really commanding big premiums. But even a yellow blister like this one, it was admittedly unpunched. You know, that's a big number. That's a big number for a yellow blister Bosk. Here's another cool one. This is the 12-inch or 15-inch, really, because IG-88 was larger than the other 12-inch figures, but it included the box. It was already opened. Obviously, there's cellophane damage and box wear and things like that, but it was 100% complete. What a cool item. That's a really cool item. And that one sold for $1,098 after the buyer's premium. We've seen some very high-grade examples, mint and sealed box, sell for $4,000 plus, so I think that number's pretty fair. That's a really nice item, and usually you lose these little rockets or, you know, grenades that are on his belt, but this was 100% complete and appeared to be in, you know, unplayed with condition. So $1,098 took that one home for a complete but out of the box, you know, no longer sealed IG-88. Here was a mint and sealed box Dagobah playset, Dagobah Action playset. It sold for $1,103. Quite a bit of fading, sun fading to the sticker on the front of that, but still a very nice example. It did have some graying kind of going on with the box, which is common. You don't usually find these still super mint white. If you want to see a really mint white one, go check out That One Time on YouTube. He's got a CAS graded Canadian version of this that's mint and sealed box, CAS 85. So, but this is a really nice example. It looked like to me it had some sun fading going on that sticker. It looks just kind of faded to me, but nevertheless, it didn't seem to stop the buyers. That one sold for $1,103 for a mint and sealed box Dagobah Action playset. This is an interesting one. This was the Palatoy 65 back A squid head. I did not confirm this, but I'm almost 100% positive that this is on the Toy Tony list. And it was graded AFA 85, 85, 80, 85, and it was a later or an older grade for the label. So my gut says that this was a Toy Tony. It didn't seem to affect the price any, or it was maybe a buyer that didn't know that, but I'm almost positive that this is a Toy Tony. It didn't have the double stem, and I've heard that, you know, there are some double stems, like having the double stem doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a Toy Tony. That's what I've heard. I don't know for a fact, but it's still a beautiful item. Don't get me wrong. I probably would, honestly, the final sales price of $460 is probably a price I would have paid anyway. I mean, it's just nice to have these foreign card backs, and I've got a little mini run of squid heads going, but $460, took that one home. And this one, another one, you know, I mentioned it towards the beginning of the video that a lot of the sales prices in this auction lot at Hakes were well below market, and I think this is a good example of one. This was a 65 back B, made in Mexico. So this is a Lily Letty Yoda, and it had a clear blister, obviously. And this is an item that's really jumped up in price recently, and I would argue that this is low, that this final sales price was $844 was the final sales price. But I think that that's a really low price, quite honestly. I think whoever bought that got a steal of a deal on that. I would have paid way more than that for that one. But really nice AFA 75 made in Mexico Yoda. So that's the Lily Letty factory made for the U.S. market. This is one of the tougher to find made in Mexico U.S. Kenner card backs. It's just very, or U.S. market card backs, but it's just a very difficult one to find. And especially in fairly high grade. This was an AFA 75, but $844 for that I thought was a great price. And it was above the value code, but I think that value code was way too low for a made in Mexico Yoda. But that's just my personal opinion. Here's another one where I thought that they got a great deal, This was the Hollow Cheeks 65 back B Tusken Raider. You can see here it's got the Hollow Cheeks, and we've seen some just loose graded examples go for $800 plus. Just for the loose grade. This is mint on card. It was yellowed, but it was an AFA 80. That one sold for $778. And again, I've seen very regularly on eBay loose graded Hollow Cheeks Tusken Raiders sell for way more than that. So I think whoever got that one, that was another steal of a deal in my opinion. This is one I have no idea what's going on. Maybe you experts out there can clue me in what's going on here. But this is a 79 back C Paplu. It's only an AFA 80, but it sold for $721. I mean, that's almost as much as a made in Mexico Yoda. So I don't know if that's, maybe it's just me, but that price to me seems crazy. I don't know what is going on there, or if that was a rare combination or something. But to me, I feel like I've seen that Paplu on the 79 back seat very, very regularly, and to pay $721 for that is just insanity to me. That seems really high. We all know about the last 17s, and especially the Luke Stormtrooper last 17. His price continues to be pretty high, and we're going to look at a loose graded example that I thought was very fair. But this one was an AFA yellowed 80 plus. That one sold for $2,211. So 2,000 plus seems to be the new going rate for Luke. So it used to be kind of $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 for a nice high grade Power of the Force yellowed blister Luke Stormtrooper. I think that's out the window now. I mean, it just seems consistently that the Lukes are just crazy, crazy money. Here was another last 17. This is Luke Battle Poncho, a yellowed 80 plus. That one sold for $778 after the buyer's premium. That's well within market, in my opinion. That we've seen several examples on eBay sell for that or higher. And it was a beautiful example. No price sticker, unpunched. The blister was not too yellow. That's a number I would have paid all day long. $778 for that one. That's a great price. Here's another one that continues to go up in value. That's the Han Solo and Carbonite, another last 17 on the Power of the Force card back. That was a yellowed 80. That one had 14 bids. The final sales price was $1,100. Again, that's well within market. I mean, we've seen that very regularly sell for that on eBay. So nothing crazy. I knew this one was going to sell for big money. I just had to show it, though. It was an incredible uncirculated 90 EV99 on the Power of the Force card back. What an incredible item. So that means somebody took a sealed case of these Power of the Force figures, sent it in for grading, and it got a U90. So probably not many of these out there. I bet there's less than a handful of these. And it did get a yellowed score for the blister, but it looks very clear. I mean, it's very close to clear. So it's a gorgeous, about as factory fresh as you're going to get. And that one sold for $2,508. So I knew that would sell for a big number. And wow, what an incredible item. That's just a piece of, it's like a time capsule. You know, it's like one of those old time capsules that you find under like statues that they tear down and they find like a time capsule inside. This would be a pretty good example of one to put in there because it's just completely mint, and really cool to see that. Here was an AFA 85 loose graded Luke Stormtrooper. It had the older case, but it was an AFA 85, and that one sold for $873. I thought that was a great deal. That's after the buyer's premium. That's well within market. I mean, we've seen it sell for that very regularly on eBay. And another one that I thought was a good buy, this was the Droids R2D2 AFA 85 loose graded with the new case. That one sold for $908 and change. That's a great value in my opinion as well. So those two loose graded figures, I thought loose graded in general in this auction sold for very good prices. And there were some deals to be had there. Finally, the only modern item I wanted to touch on, but this was a one that I did bid on. I went really low because I just didn't particularly want it. But this was a trilingual card back. This is really, I mean, I call this the Canadian card back This is the Canadian, the Hasbro Canada card back. And so I've already got one of these. I've got one that's punched, but this was an unpunched example, AFA 8.5 on the modern scale. So I kind of threw out a low bid on it, and I almost won it by accident, really. So $460 was the final sales price, which I think that's a pretty good deal, honestly. It's tough to find unpunched Canadian TVC, and I've only seen a handful of these unpunched Ahsoka Canadian cards. So I thought that was a great price, though, for an AFA 8.5, $460. So anyway, if you enjoy this kind of data and you're new to the channel, again, welcome. I appreciate you watching. Please give me a thumbs up. If you all bought anything at Hakes, please comment below, or just comment with any thoughts on some of these sales prices. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.